bitter war, putting on a mildly satirical play about war. A month later, in a gap in the air raid on Berlin, Albert Speer records in his biography that the Russians had not yet arrived. They didn't arrive for another 2-3 weeks. The Berlin Philharmonic put on a star performance of Wagner, the proper Dämmerung. And anybody was there, beautifully dressed, a brilliant performance. I think it was Ferdinand, who later discovered he was Swiss. But many of them, fine German cabaret. Max, yes, very good. But at the end of the performance, as the audience said, there were beautifully uniformed Hitler Youth lads holding baskets of cyanide capsules for the faithful to take home. And I thought how different an approach to the end of the war it was. And the dear old Brits say, oh well, it's all a bit silly, isn't it? And the others not quite like that. Now, shut up.
It's quite a good idea for the Republican Party to pick up. I'm sorry, that was completely gratuitous, and I have no right to say so. I just wanted to get a laugh.
I won't say a word. I won't say anything about your Tory party, will we?
No, go ahead. They're all as bad as each other.
What did you like about Harry's film?
The work with the actors.
Isn't it great to see Harold working with the actors? Just playing. You said a wonderful thing earlier today about how he had an innocence about his own work and could completely listen and hear and feel his own work as though for the first time when actors started to say the words.
Yeah.
Although he remembered every line, he was just as open to discovering something new about a play he knew inside out from 35 years.
He was such a gentleman. You know, people think of him as forbidding and combative, and he could be. But he was also open, and he loved young people, and he loved kamikaze kids who'd try anything. I have to say, I'm not saying this to be nice or because he brought a supper card, but this theatre he would love, because it's so adventurous and so generous. That's what he'd love, you know, try anything. And he was very generous. I was once in a play in New York. I think I should emphasize the word once. And the parcel arrived at the stage door, and he'd published 250 copies of some silly poems I'd written privately. And he gave me 25 copies. That's the sort of thing he would do. He was endlessly generous. And he didn't have to have me doing monologue. He gave me monologue to do in 1973 on television. But he could have had anyone do it. He never said anything about it. He just asked me to do it. He was a lovely, generous man.
Right.
I was just thinking, though, I wished we could somehow stretch the time to include more clips of his acting.
Yes.
Because that acting cycle was compelling.
There are things available on YouTube, for instance. You can see his astonishing performance, and it's complete, of Kraft's last tape, which he did not more than a year and a half before he died. He did it from a wheelchair. It is an absolutely staggering piece of acting. I recommend it without reservation.
Yeah, it's true. But the gentleman said he'd like to have seen more of Harold's acting in the film. What else is worth looking at? Patricia Rosimer's wonderful film of Mansfield Park, which is fully available. Harold has a wonderful role in that, in which he's quite brilliant.
One of his best verbs. You showed in New York. Harry did a marvellous commemorative day of Harold's work in New York. Although I thought the National Theatre in England did we were both in it, a sort of very star-studded and excellent evening of Harold. It didn't just in their comparison with Harry's day. You know, Harold's movies and television screenplays being shown in one theatre, and we had panel discussions all day. Harry organised it wonderfully. One of the best performances I ever saw Harold give was as Goldberg in one of the BBC versions of the birthday party. He wasn't always relaxed as an actor, but But sometimes when he was just magic.
That performance is extraordinary. Harry shared some of that with me when I was in London.
Yes, yes.
And also on YouTube, you can watch Harold in 1959 acting in his own play, A Night Out. Just Google The Night Out or YouTube A Night Out. You watch a very young, incredibly energetic Harold in that play, doing that wonderful scene about the football players, and it's just great to catch the Hackney vibe. You know, it's really very pure at that point. There's plenty on the internet of Harold's acting. And of course I'd love to be able to show more. Yes, sir?
Was he the schoolmaster?
No.
No.
Was that not Lindsay Anderson himself, the director of the film?
I'd have to see it again, I don't remember, but it's not Harold.
He played the father in Wit.
Say again, Susan?
In the TV version done for HBO, Harold has the part of Wit, in Wit, the father. And he's also in Mojo.
Right.
Mojo.
Oh yes, Mojo's another terrific movie that Harold is in, playing a gay gangster.
Oh, and the Tailor of Panama.
The Tailor of Panama is another one. Yeah.
What's the ratio of actual material that you accumulated during these interviews and during the theatrical to what ended up on the screen? I mean, do you have
Well, sorry, do I?
10 to 1, 20 to 1?
I guess it's probably 8 to 10 to 1. I mean, I was talking earlier about the filming of the workshop. It was the first thing I ever directed, you know, and I had just done the BBC director's course, and I managed to persuade the crews, the professional crews that we had helping us on the director's course to come. In fact, BBC Training and Development gave me a crew.
But wasn't this almost accidental? Didn't you first do a workshop?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Harold had had cancer and had a major operation, was recovering, but felt he couldn't direct plays anymore because he was an incredibly successful and brilliant theatre director in his own right. And he said he was retiring from directing. And I just felt that was crazy. So I took my life in my hands and I said to him, will you do a workshop with me? And he replied, what's a workshop? Nobody had ever asked him. You know, many directors and actors and writers, distinguished people are invited to come in and do masterclass. Nobody had ever asked Harold. It was just my good luck. And so we had an amazing day with some actors, and the great thing about workshops is you don't use famous actors because they interfere with the process because it's all about them. So you work with actors who just want to work for a day with Harold Pinter. And he loved that it was people he didn't know. And at the end of that day I thought, damn, if we had a camera in the room, we'd have captured something that other people would find useful. And then I had to ask him again. And then I had to ask BBC Training and Development and a producer called Robbie Fox to give me some money. And, you know, it all came together. But, going back to your question, the fact is that almost everything in the workshop that was usable is in the film. We had days of footage. It was so badly directed by me that it was uneditable. At one point, we had 3 cameras in that little theatre. I mean, you see those empty seats, it should have been filled with students. What was I thinking, you know, to have Harold doing that work in front of 8 people and a couple of cats?
Is that the only?
No, that's where we did the interview. We shot at the place called the Bridewell Theatre, the workshop. I mean, it's fine, it works. But at one point, all 3 cameras had drifted to the same side and we're all filming the same person. You can't cut that, you can't edit that. So it was a big learning curve for me. But there's much more. Do you remember the Almeida? I had you and Harold reading bits of No Man's Land, The Dumbwaiter. I've never even looked at it. I've never even watched it. I'd love to cut a longer version of the film, but it's so expensive. So yeah, it's about 8 to 1 of us. Yes, sir?
Were all those actors on a first-name basis with Harold?
No. They were terrified. I had to. By the time Harold came in and worked with them, on the 3rd day of that workshop, it was a 3-day workshop. Harold only came in on the 3rd day. They all had 2 rehearsals of about an hour each. So what they were doing with Harold was their 3rd rehearsal and about the 3rd hour of rehearsal. But